In a covert warehouse, Damien visits a gang boss to ask for his part of the illegal goods to sell. Damien's getting too agitated, so the boss pulls him aside and tells him there's a snitch in the gang. When Damien plays the victim, the boss admits he knows Damien is an undercover cop. When Damien realizes he's been discovered, he pulls out his revolver and starts utilizing both martial arts moves and bullets to fight off the approaching goons. After defeating a bunch that attacks him simultaneously, Damien moves back and misses a car coming, which causes him to get injured very severely. Fortunately, he is hurt but still awake, and he pursues the boss to apprehend him only to realize that the gang also knew about Damien's wife. When they discover Damien's true name, Damien runs back to his home out of fear at the implications. But it's too late, his wife has passed away. Years later, while Shimon is beginning a new semester at the nearby school, he observes that a student has missed 2 classes in a row. The other teenagers explain that this lad has an addiction, and that Amelia, who herself once had an addiction, sought to convince him of his error but was ignored. At that precise moment, Shimon's son Kamil receives a distressing phone call from the mother of the missing youngster, informing him that the pupil has been discovered dead. This is not the first time something similar has occurred at this school. The sale of illegal goods there is a big issue for the organization. Shimon contacts his best friend Damien to ask for help, since he's sick of seeing pupils drop out due to addiction. But Damien lets the call go to voicemail because he's struggling. He became overly dependent on alcohol, after losing his wife, became sacked from the police department, and is now nothing more than a drunk. However, as dusk approaches, Damien makes the decision to collect himself and go to Shimon to hear him out. While Kamil listens in on the conversation from the corridor, Shimon explains the issues the school is facing, but Damien declines to assist, claiming he can't even help himself. After that, 3 guys attempt to grab Damien's money. As he enters a store to buy more alcohol, Damien asks for it politely at first, but when they don't take him seriously, he beats them up by taking items from other parts of the business. A different customer is irritated by the uproar and offers Damien a bottle of whiskey to entice him to go right away. In the meantime, Shimon travels to a warehouse at a location he overheard one of the children describe. However, as soon as he gets to the door, he is caught in the act. The heartbreaking news that Shimon was found dead in the warehouse is shown on television as Damien awakens the following morning. The police claim that he was in charge of the operation because of where he was discovered and that he completed it all by himself out of guilt over the death of his student. Damien, who is oblivious to the street's reporters, rushes to Shimon's house to investigate. Because he believes his friend is being falsely accused, he is permitted entry because he still has a few friends in the police, and he is able to reassure Shimon's wife that she is correct in her suspicion that her husband was set up. Damien has to intervene and clarify that Kamil is merely a teenager who is shocked when a detective makes fun of him for having a criminal father. In order to save Kamil from being imprisoned, later, Damien decides he needs to clear his best friend's name and contacts a sketchy friend to obtain phony documents. Then he goes to the school and poses as a teacher seeking to replace Shimon. The interview process starts out quite uncomfortably. When the secretary advises him not to apply, since the institution is too dangerous, Principal Leshik interrupts their discussion and hires Damien, because he is the only applicant, assuring them that he will be secure, because he has hired a security team. Agata, his assistant, will be in charge of showing Damien around the facility when he starts working tomorrow, so he also calls for her. When Damien shows up at the school the following day, he sees Jaro stealing flowers from the monument for the deceased kid, and attempts to get him to put them back. Jaro is not pleased with this, and orders his gang mate Mammoth to beat Damien up, but Mammoth is still a bashful youngster, who is feeling pressured by his peers and barely moves. Security Chief Chmielski arrives with his troops just in time to send the teenagers to the principal's office before things get out of hand. He also intends to confront Damien, but Agata quickly intervenes and explains that he is the new instructor, saving him from doing so. Agata then gives him a tour of the office, introduces him to their co-workers, including chemistry teacher Stefan, and then takes him to meet his classmates. Kamil isn't returning to school just yet, because he needs some time to process his loss, but he will eventually. Damien quickly puts the noisy students in their place by stealing a student's phone and refusing to be intimidated by their taunts. One youngster, however, isn't as compliant, Frogface persistently pestering a classmate and disobeying Damien's orders, until Damien is forced to expel him. Agata sends Chmielski to take Frogface away, because he won't leave on his own. Frogface threatens to catch up with Agata later as he leaves. Agata is at the parking lot at the end of the day, when Frogface and his gang mates unexpectedly approach her. They have stolen her car keys, and are now catching her to exact payback. A nearby teacher offers to drive Damien home, after he realizes someone has cut his tires. They see Agata in danger as soon as they pull into the parking lot, and Damien quickly defeats all of the goons. Even if one of them is armed, Damien does eventually get a hand wound. but it is insufficient to deter him, and Frogface flees in terror. Damien shows Agatha how to protect herself if a criminal grabs her in order to avoid answering questions about his background, as she takes him back into the school to bandage his hand. While this is going on, the thugs take Frogface to visit Jaro, one of the many people selling illegal goods at the school, on the orders of an enigmatic figure on a bike. The man reveals himself to be Chmielski, as he approaches and takes off his helmet, whose security company serves as a cover for him to station his men on campus. Frogface owes Jaro and Chmielski money, and because he got into problems for attempting to avenge Agatha, they are both furious. Therefore, a beating is necessary. Mammoth agrees to Jaro's request, so that Mammoth can finally overcome his shyness and actually become a member of the gang, which he is just joining out of a desire to fit in. Damien discovers his car being towed. When he gets to school the following morning, everyone is celebrating Damien's success in the teacher's room, as they watch the security footage, and Lesser says he will cover the towing and new tires, as a token of his appreciation. Chmielski wonders why Damien is such a skilled fighter, but Damien insists that he is only a tutor. When Damien returns to the classroom, he finds that the surveillance film has leaked, and that all of the pupils are now viewing it as well. They keep asking him questions, even how to defend themselves, because they are so happy to have him as a teacher. Damien finds the concept hilarious, and invites the class to the gym with a proposition. If they can defeat him, no final test will be given. They obviously fail to land even a single blow, but at least they enjoy themselves. Damien observes Camille watching, but he quickly leaves. After realizing who the teacher is, Damien follows Camille to the changing room and explains that he's there to look for clues and show that Shimon is innocent. Camille jumps on Damien in response, enraged that Damien failed to assist his father when he most needed it. Damien concurs and reveals why he feels accountable for Shimon's passing, surprising Camille. Even though it could be too late to save him, his desire to save the students leads Camille to agree to preserve the secret. When Damien returns his automobile, in flawless condition at the end of the day, he invites Agatha to go out for a drink. At a pub, they have a lot of fun together, but things become tense when Damien witnesses some men making slurs about two infatuated girls. Damien steps in to defend them, and when the men don't disperse, another altercation begins. Damien chooses to play with them rather than rapidly beat them, because these guys are so inebriated, which makes Agatha grin. After that, Agatha invites Damien over to her house, where they meet up already kissing. Damien is abruptly hit by a surge of recollections of his wife, showcasing the pleasant moments, and the upsetting conclusion. When Agatha goes to the kitchen to get some wine, Damien realizes he can no longer proceed and leaves silently, leaving Agatha to draw the worst conclusions. Damien, who is on his way home, stops to reprimand Mammoth for selling the merchandise, and reminds him that he is a smart man, who has no business being in a gang. Damien also tries to gain some information, but Mammoth says he can't before fleeing. Later, at school, Amelia notices one of her classmates purchasing merchandise as well, and attempts to discourage her, because she is aware of how harmful it can be. Camille arrives to help Amelia after Jaro abruptly interrupts the talk, and orders his men to seize her. Unfortunately, he lacks fighting skills, so the gang members beat him up right away. Jaro then uses him as an example of what will happen to anyone who dared to step in and stop the fight in the future. Instead of the camaraderie from last night, Agatha approaches Damien with icy professionalism when he gets to school. When class begins, Damien notices that Camille's face is completely black and blue. The teen just claims that he slipped, and no one is willing to tip off Jaro. The pupils remind Damien that they are unable to protect themselves. While he chastises them for not doing so, Damien asks the group to visit his old dojo after class, since he is determined to assist them. The students are almost ready to leave, because the place needs major improvements, but Camille gives his support, which encourages everyone to stay. With everyone's assistance, the dojo is cleaned in a matter of days, and Damien spends additional time teaching everyone his finest moves. Since he is amazed at how quickly they are picked up, he tries to connect with Agatha while teaching history at school, but she still views him as a colleague and won't hang out with him. In his spare time, Damien follows some of the gang members to see where they stash their merchandise, and has the chance to report them to the police, who then seize all of the merchandise. Damien is feeling quite good about himself for getting this done, but he isn't aware that Chmielski is also keeping a watch on him. Jaro and the others decide they must take action against Damien at the following gang gathering. Later, after the most recent training session has concluded, Damien stays in the dojo to train alone, when a group of men in ski masks suddenly approach him. They have sticks and are more skilled fighters than the typical street thug, but Damien still defeats them all with his prodigious abilities, even if he is sore and bleeding at the end. The following morning at school, Damien sees Chmielski's security team exposing some significant scars, and realizes they are a member of the gang, but for the time being, Damien only teases Chmielski without flashing his hand. Chmielski is incensed that they may be used so simply, but Jaro assures him that he has a solution. Following class, Jaro and the crew visit Amelia's father. On the pretense of needing to restore an ancient watch they stole from Shimon the night he was slain, the poor man asks them to leave, since he doesn't want any trouble. But just as Jaro is ready to become aggressive, Amelia arrives. She meets Jaro after sending her father to the adjacent room. Jaro pulls her by the hair and tells her that she must cooperate if she doesn't want to lose her father. The following day, Damien shows up at the school to see everyone in a very depressed state. Lesser is dismissing him after Amelia accused him of exploiting her in the dojo. As the security crew walks Damien out of the building, Camille follows him and insults him for having deceived him into thinking he was a good guy. Because Agatha and the students no longer believe him, Damien doesn't respond because he is aware that his words won't be taken seriously. Amelia, however, is so overcome with guilt that she relapses into her previous addiction. Damien pays her a visit in the evening to try and figure out what happened, and Amelia relates the threat against her father. Damien removes the merchandise from her, since he feels bad about it too, but Amelia's father arrives and ejects Damien before he can do more. After that, Damien goes to see Frogface at the hospital to try to get him to talk. He persuades him to work with him by showing him his own reflection, which indicates that his group has already abandoned him. Frogface eventually admits they don't carry the merchandise into the school from outside. They enter the labs of the school, intent on sharing this crucial piece of information. Damien goes to visit Agatha, but she still rejects him and sends him away. Damien snatches her school keys, because she has access to the entire facility. As she turns around to call the police, Damien discovers that the security guards are still present in the school and must go cautiously. Ducking into a closet is required to avoid being observed. Once the security guards are out of the way, he enters the chemistry lab covertly, and discovers evidence that the merchandise is being produced there. As it turns out, Stefan is the one in charge of cooking. Damien hears some footsteps suddenly, and hides in time to watch him enter. Fortunately, Stefan departs swiftly to assist the security guards in loading the van, allowing Damien to capture a few images of the action, before getting in his car and following the van. When Damien arrives at the warehouse, the van has already been empty, and the security team attacks him. However, Damien easily defeats them by taking their taser, and uses it against them. He then phones Agatha and offers her a detailed explanation on her voicemail. The following day, Damien shows Agatha and Lesser the photos, who comment that they are hazy and not strong proof. Damien did not call the police because of this. When Lesser phones Stefan and Chmielski to inquire, Stefan merely states that the security staff helped him clean up. After working late on an experiment for class, Damien falls for the trap when Chmielewski argues that Shimon was the genuine dealer, but the guards intervene before he can turn violent. Damien is expelled, but Agatha is still suspicious, so she visits Amelia, whose shame prompts her to come clean. Later, when Damien gains access to the school's security cameras, he finds that all of the footage of the merchandise transfer has been wiped. Damien starts to drink, because he feels like he is losing control of the investigation. He only stops when Agatha apologizes for not believing him, and enters the room. When Damien eventually tells her everything, Agatha comforts him with a kiss, before deciding to provide a hand. The two then go to Stefan to demand information, but he refuses to give them any names, and just says that he is working as a cook for a gang, since they had threatened to kill his wife. Chmielski suddenly rides up on his motorbike and shoots Stefan, but he doesn't even give Damien a foul glance before leaving. Leszek asks Agatha to clean Stefan's locker the following day. At school while he meets with Amelia, who has come to confess, Agatha is astonished to discover a concealed notepad with notes about the merchandise in Stefan's locker and decides to keep it for herself. A short while later, when Amelia had told them the truth, Camille and the other students went to the dojo to apologize to Damien. The joyful reunion is abruptly cut short by a call from Agatha alerting them that Amelia was attacked and is currently unconscious. Agatha reveals the notebook to Damien as the party arrives at the hospital. It contains a map of the warehouse and instructions on how to locate the hidden merchandise. Later that night, unknowing that Chmielski is still watching him, Damien makes his way to the warehouse. When Damien initially arrives, he kills the first guard he comes across, before turning around and being startled by Agatha, who has come to assist. With the help of the map in the notebook, they quickly locate the merchandise, but soon they are confronted by Chmielski, Jaro, the gang, and a shocking revelation: Leszek is actually the mastermind behind the operation. Leszek has given up on the current generation, because they don't care about their academics. Leszek mocks Damien by displaying Shimon's watch, but Mammoth, who has seen his blunder, interrupts the conversation by bringing the entire class with him. Then a fight breaks out between the two teams, and Damien proudly watches as his students take down the gang, including Jaro. Damien pursues Chmielski as he flees, engaging him in combat while both of them are armed. Damien is winning, so Chmielski decides to try to electrocute him. by ripping some wires from the wall, but Damien disarms him with a kick. Damien throws Chmielski into the wires and electrocutes him to death, as Kamil arrives and diverts Chmielski's attention. After that, they search for Agata, who Leszek has kidnapped. Damien hits the principal despite the fact that he is armed, instantly releasing Agata. When they turn around, Leszek displays that he is still awake and pulls a gun from his sock. However, before he can fire, Kamil throws a box of toys on top of him, killing him for good. While they wait for the police and ambulances to arrive to take care of all the young heroes, Damien takes the opportunity to retrieve Shimon's watch and gives it to Kamil as a memento of his father. The end. If you like this story, please subscribe to the channel and like it to motivate me to bring you more stories like this.